Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Before I get on out of here, I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves Caitlin Clark.
What if I told you that by 2026, some of the WNBA's biggest names could be at the center of one of the league's most explosive financial debates, years before the contracts even kick in? Stephen A. Smith, never one to hold back, has reportedly caught wind of the situation, and his reaction, pure, unfiltered disbelief. He's calling it a shocking financial setup that could either redefine the future of women's basketball or seriously undervalue it. This isn't just about three-pointers or highlight reels. It's about raw, undeniable star power. Caitlin Clark exploded onto the WNBA scene like a comet, instantly turning games into must-watch events. Record-breaking TV ratings, packed arenas, and a media frenzy the league hadn't seen in years. Clark alone injected a new level of energy, excitement, and most importantly, revenue into the sport. But here's the problem. Despite generating unprecedented attention, Clark and even her teammate Lexie Hull are still playing on rookie contracts that, by professional sports standards, feel downright disrespectful. The gap between the value they bring and the salary on their checks has ignited a fiery debate. How can the league reconcile this skyrocketing popularity with what seems like a blatant underpayment of its top talent? Now imagine Stephen A., known for his scorching hot takes, dropping another name into this already volatile mix, Sophie Cunningham. Why would a seasoned veteran like Cunningham be tangled up in a future contract debate alongside rookie phenoms? This isn't just about rookies, it highlights a deeper, systemic problem with how the WNBA compensates its most impactful players, no matter their experience. And the drama behind the scenes is far bigger than individual contracts. Stephen A.'s reaction wasn't mild frustration, it was nearly explosive. He's reportedly beside himself, not just questioning the current system, but warning that this gap could widen dramatically. He isn't only talking about today, he's projecting a future where the misalignment between player value and pay could become catastrophic. And what's coming in 2026 is so staggering, it's enough to make any sports analyst pause. That year isn't just a random marker, it's a pivotal moment for the WNBA, with the collective bargaining agreement potentially up for renegotiation and new media rights deals on the horizon. The league's financial landscape is poised for a massive shakeup. Will it finally match soaring popularity with pay that reflects the value these stars bring? Or will the wild, questionable contract structures Stephen A. is exposing continue to leave top talent underpaid and undervalued? This isn't just a numbers game. It's a high-stakes tug-of-war far from the court. Agents are strategizing for their clients, the league is plotting its next moves, and players are fighting for their worth. And Stephen A. with his signature intensity, is peeling back the curtain on this clash of interests, showing how these negotiations are shaping the future of both paychecks and the league itself. So, as 2026 approaches, the big question looms. Will the WNBA finally reward its stars with contracts worthy of their impact, or will these shocking financial imbalances continue, leaving the league's brightest talents feeling fundamentally undervalued? The future of women's basketball, on and off the court, hinges on the choices being made right now. Let's address the elephant in the room, the salaries. Numbers that have analysts like Stephen A. Smith practically losing it on live TV. When Caitlin Clark signed her rookie deal with the Indiana Fever, it was a 4-year contract worth roughly $338,000 in total. Yes, you read that right. The player who arguably did more to elevate WNBA visibility in a single season than the previous 5 combined is earning about $76,000 in her first year. For perspective, that's less than what some NBA players drop on a single suit for draft night. But the math gets even crazier when you look at the broader picture. Clark's games are drawing TV audiences that rival and sometimes surpass NBA regular season matchups. Her jersey became the fastest selling women's basketball jersey ever. Ticket prices for Fever games soared, with some secondary market seats selling for 10 times their face value. Analysts estimate that Clark generated anywhere from $15 million to $30 million in added revenue for the league in her rookie season alone, and yet her paycheck represents just a tiny fraction of that. Then there's Lexie Hull, Clark's teammate and another rising star. Despite playing a key role in the Fever's resurgence and growing her own fan base, Hull's contract tells the harsh reality of WNBA pay structures. She earns about $67,000 per year, a figure that in any other major pro league would be laughably low for a player of her impact and skill. The numbers just don't add up, and that's exactly why Stephen A is ready to throw tables. Now let's talk about Sophie Cunningham, the veteran in this mix. Cunningham has earned her stripes over multiple seasons, building her brand and establishing herself as one of the league's most recognizable faces. Her social media reach alone drives engagement, sponsorships, and league exposure. Yet when you compare her contract to the value she brings both on and off the court, the story is clear. Systemic undervaluation runs deep, regardless of experience. For context, the maximum WNBA salary for the 2024 season was about $241,000. Let that sink in. The league's top earner made less than the NBA minimum salary, which sits around $1.1 million. We're not even comparing stars to stars. We're comparing the elite of the WNBA to the absolute floor of the NBA. The gap isn't just large, it's astronomical, it's nearly incomprehensible. Enter the Caitlin Clark effect. To understand why 2026 could be a turning point, we need to grasp just how transformative Clark has been for women's basketball. This isn't hype, it's reflected in the numbers. Before Clark arrived, the WNBA averaged around 400,000 viewers for nationally televised games. Respectable, but not game-changing. Then Clark hit the scene, and suddenly broadcasts were pulling 1.5 million, 2 million, even 2.5 million viewers. Playoff games shattered records, with some nearing 3 million viewers, territory the WNBA had only dreamed of. The arena impact was just as dramatic. The Indiana Fever, a team that had struggled with attendance in previous years, could no longer meet demand. Season ticket waitlists ballooned into the thousands. Road games sold out instantly, forcing opposing teams to move games to larger venues just to capitalize on the Clark effect. The Connecticut Sun, for example, relocated a game against the Fever to a bigger arena and sold it out in mere hours. The economic ripple extended throughout the league, impacting every team, whether they were playing against Clark or not. The bottom line is clear. One player, Caitlin Clark, has redefined what's possible for the WNBA, both in popularity and revenue, but the pay structure hasn't even begun to catch up. Merchandise sales across the league went through the roof. Caitlin Clark's jersey shattered records, but her influence lifted everyone. Sales of other players' jerseys surged as new fans discovered the WNBA through Clark and then explored its other stars. League Pass subscriptions spiked. Sponsors that had never considered investing in women's basketball suddenly found themselves scrambling to get a piece of the action. Social media told an even bigger story. Clark's highlight reels routinely racked up millions of views, introducing the WNBA to audiences who had never engaged with the sport. Young girls showed up to games with homemade signs. Bars and restaurants started hosting WNBA viewing parties. The cultural conversation had shifted. The WNBA was no longer just a sports league. It had become a movement, a phenomenon, a cultural moment, and yet, despite driving this seismic change, Clark will play out her rookie deal, making less than many middle management corporate jobs. The disconnect is staggering, and it's exactly what has Stephen A. Smith reportedly losing his mind behind the scenes. The 2026 crossroads, why 2026 could change everything. The stakes for the WNBA in 2026 are immense. Several converging factors make it a potential turning point for the league's financial future, and the decisions made now will echo for years to come. First, the collective bargaining agreement. The current CBA, negotiated in 2020, brought major improvements: higher salaries, better travel, enhanced maternity benefits, and a bigger revenue share for players. At the time, it was hailed as a landmark victory, but that was before the Caitlin Clark era, before viewership skyrocketed, before anyone could have predicted the explosive growth in league value. The next CBA will be negotiated in a completely different landscape, and both sides know it. Second, media rights deals. Current contracts with ESPN, CBS, and Amazon were signed when the WNBA was a much smaller product, with lower viewership and limited cultural impact. Now, with proven ratings, strong demographics, and advertiser appeal, the league is poised to demand exponentially higher rights fees. Industry insiders suggest the next deal could be 5 to 10 times larger than current agreements. This isn't incremental growth, it's a total paradigm shift. Third, expansion. The WNBA is actively exploring new franchises. Multiple cities have expressed serious serious interest, backed by wealthy ownership groups ready to invest. Expansion fees could inject hundreds of millions of dollars into the league. But here's the tension. If the league's value has exploded, shouldn't the players who created that value see their pay rise accordingly? Fourth, player leverage and potential unrest. Stars like Breanna Stewart and Jewell Loyd have been increasingly vocal about salary disparities. When Clark, Lexie Hull, and the next generation of stars finish their rookie contracts, they'll negotiate with unprecedented leverage. They've seen their impact firsthand, they know the revenue they've generated, and they understand their worth. Stephen A. Smith, closely tracking player sentiment and front office dynamics, reportedly sees 2026 as the year these pressures could either be resolved with forward-thinking agreements or spiral into labor tensions that threaten the league's momentum. His dramatic reaction comes not just from what exists today, but from the explosive potential of what could happen if the WNBA fails to act decisively. There's a side of this crisis that often gets overlooked in casual conversations, but it's front and center in serious negotiations: the international basketball alternative. For many WNBA players, overseas leagues aren't just a supplement, they're often the main source of income, and that reality fundamentally changes the labor dynamics here at home. Top WNBA stars can earn anywhere from $500,000 to $1.5 million playing in leagues in Turkey, Russia, before recent geopolitical issues, China, or other parts of Europe. That means these players can make several times their WNBA salary simply by competing abroad during the offseason. Some have even jokingly, or not so jokingly, referred to the WNBA as their side gig. It's a bizarre situation. The world's premier women's basketball league can't provide enough financial security for its own stars to make it their singular focus. To put it in perspective, imagine if LeBron James had to play in China every offseason just to make ends meet because his NBA salary wasn't enough. Sounds ridiculous, right? That's because it is. Yet that's the reality WNBA players face year after year. Playing internationally does offer leverage, but it comes at a steep cost. Travel is grueling, time away from family is significant, injury risk doubles, as players rarely get a true offseason to rest. Multiple WNBA stars have suffered major injuries overseas, jeopardizing their American careers. Breanna Stewart, for example, tore her Achilles while playing in Europe, and other players have lost entire WNBA seasons due to injuries sustained abroad. For someone like Caitlin Clark, the equation gets even trickier. Her marketability in the US is unparalleled, but that doesn't necessarily carry over internationally. Her value is deeply tied to American media, brand partnerships, and cultural influence. Would leagues in China or Turkey pay her significantly more than the WNBA when her global draw is primarily domestic? The answer isn't clear. This is why 2026 could be a turning point. If the WNBA can leverage new media deals and expansion revenue to offer salaries that truly reflect player value, salaries that make overseas play optional instead of necessary, it could reshape the league. Players could dedicate themselves fully to their WNBA careers, improving the quality of play, reducing injuries, and boosting offseason marketing and community engagement. But if the league fails to act, if the wild contract structures Stephen A. Smith has highlighted persist into the next CBA, the result could be a talent drain. Top players might prioritize international opportunities, treating the WNBA as a seasonal obligation rather than a professional priority. For a league experiencing unprecedented growth, that would be catastrophic. To understand the stakes, it helps to look at how other women's professional leagues handle player compensation. The National Women's Soccer League, NWSL, provides a useful comparison. Following the US women's national team's World Cup success and the public conversation around pay equity, the NWSL significantly raised both its salary floor and maximum salaries. Today, top players earn $300,000 to $450,000 in base salary, with additional allocation money available for designated players. The lesson is clear: leagues that recognize and reward their top talent not only retain players, they grow the sport. The WNBA has that opportunity in 2026, but it has to act decisively. The minimum salary in leagues like the NWSL has risen to $35,000, with the average hovering around $55,000. While still modest compared to men's soccer, these numbers reflect a crucial acknowledgement. Championship-winning, headline-grabbing athletes deserve pay that matches their market impact. The league looked at revenue growth, media attention, and cultural influence, and adjusted salaries accordingly. That's exactly the the approach WNBA advocates are pushing the league to embrace. Professional women's tennis provides another instructive example, though in a different structure. Grand Slam tournaments now offer equal prize money for men and women, a change born from years of advocacy and the undeniable fact that women's matches drew comparable and often higher viewership and ticket sales. The principle was simple: equal value generated should mean equal compensation. Even newer leagues are learning this lesson. The Professional Women's Hockey League, PWHL, which just launched, grabbed headlines by offering salaries between $35,000 and $80,000 with full benefits. And this in its inaugural season, without the WNBA's decades of foundation or growing television presence. PWHL ownership understood that to attract and retain top talent and build a sustainable league, they had to provide pay that allowed players to focus entirely on their sport. The WNBA's case is unique. Unlike tennis, it operates under a league structure with revenue sharing and collective bargaining agreements that dictate salary frameworks. Unlike the NWSL, it has a salary cap designed to maintain competitive balance. But these rules don't change the fundamental question. As the league's value skyrockets, shouldn't player pay rise proportionally? Stephen A. Smith's reported frustration seems rooted in this very gap. He's watched other leagues evolve, adapt, and acknowledge the new economic realities. Now, the WNBA faces its 2026 negotiations, a moment that will reveal whether it can do the same or whether institutional inertia will override common sense. Perhaps the strongest argument for dramatically higher salaries is the most concrete. The money is already there, and it's about to grow exponentially. The WNBA's upcoming media rights deal is widely expected to be transformative, with figures being whispered that are staggering. Currently, media rights bring in roughly $60 million per year across all partners. Analysts suggest the next deal could reach $250 million to $300 million annually, or even more. That's not a small bump, that's a complete overhaul of the league's financial foundation. To put it in perspective, this could place the WNBA's per-team media revenue in a range that would have been considered unthinkable just a few years ago, creating a massive opportunity to finally align player compensation with the extraordinary value they bring.